Parents are worried about how are they going to be able to pay their retirement. I have several friends that were planning on retiring next year. Their IRAs and their savings are off 30 or 40%. They can't afford to retire. They're going to have to continue to work. The truth is, what Macy has been talking about and what this website documents has been going on for many, many years, spiraling worse and worse and worse, and the American public has not paid it any attention, and the American political system has not paid it any attention, but we're now at a point where it's unavoidable. This is not different than what happened in this country in the 1920s when we had a series of bubbles in which Wall Street was leveraging itself about 20 to 1 and had a financial crisis. And we find ourselves in a Great Depression. We're not going to go into a Great Depression, but what we found is that it took a crisis, a major crisis, before anything would be done. The month that Franklin Roosevelt became president, the month before he became president, which was February 1933, something in the neighborhood of 2,000 banks collapsed. By the time Franklin Roosevelt took office in March 4th, 1933, there were 10 banks in the United States that were left open, and they would only allow the depositors to take $10 each out of the banks. It took a major crisis to change capitalism and create a way to deal with it. We're in that type of a crisis today. It's a different crisis, it has a different nature as such. How did we get to this position? We got to the position over a period of about 30 years. And we've come to this position because we have adopted a policy of laissez-faire globalism. Or let me put it another way. This country found itself in what I think future historians will talk about as a 75-year war. It began in 1914. The old empires of Russia, of Germany broke up. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire broke up. The war had a interregnum. We then wound up continuing it in World War II. We then wound up with a great fight between communism and the West, and it ended around 1989. 1914, 1989, when the Soviet Union broke up. We lived in a war state, by and large, for 75 years. Now, when that war ended, the question was, how will the industrial world, Japan, Europe, the United States, Canada, how will we bring in to the global economy around 4 billion people who have been in the communist world or in socialist states? Our solution is something we call globalism. And under globalism, what we said is we're going to, by and large, we're going to throw open our markets. We're going to make it possible for goods to be produced anywhere and brought in here. We also agreed that when our firms went abroad, is that we would negotiate trade agreements such as NAFTA, the World Trade Agreement, and CAFTA, and a series of others, where other countries would agree not to expropriate our assets. And under the basis of those agreements, we created a trap for ourselves. And the trap was, if a company that was in the United States would leave and go to Mexico or China or Bangladesh or any other country, they could go there, they could find very good workers, they could train workers, they could move their machinery, they could move their technology, they could produce the goods, and they would have a radical cost savings because they didn't have to worry about the environment, they didn't have to worry about worker safety, they could pay people 56, 60 cents an hour, and they can bring the goods back into the United States duty-free.